Hi everyone, welcome to another video, and today we're going to be going through units 3.3 and 3.4, which cover industry and tourism. So first we're going to be taking a look at industry and more particularly the industrial systems. So for an industrial system, you need to know the inputs, processes, and outputs. So you need to know examples of each. So we're going to be listing examples that you could write down if there's ever an exam question asking you to list examples as inputs, processes, or outputs. So some examples of inputs include labor, capital, energy, raw material, and land. And some processes include steel, molding, painting, sewing, manufacturing, and welding. And finally, some examples of outputs include products. So this is what is produced at the end of an industrial system. Byproducts, which are other products that are formed alongside the main product that is intended to form, and also waste is formed. Okay, so now we're going to be taking a look at the different factors that affect the distribution of industry. So the first one is land, because industrial systems need flat, well-drained land in order for factories to be built and therefore for manufacturing to take place. The next is labor, and industrial estates need to be located in areas where there is high amounts of labor, because with more labor, more goods can be produced, which can be beneficial to the industry in the region. The next is raw materials. So of course, to be able to manufacture, you need to be able to have raw materials in order to turn those into a good. So being in an area that has a high abundance of raw materials can aid in the industrial process. The next is transport, because the goods that are manufactured in industrial estates will need to be transported to maybe retail centers or shops, or they can also be exported out of the country, so that the goods are sold for a profit. And finally, there needs to be markets for the good, because if there's higher demand for the good, there'll be more purchases made of the good, and therefore it will increase the revenue made from the manufacturing of goods and services. Okay, so that's it for industry, and now we're going to be looking at tourism. So one of the things you need to know about tourism are the reasons for the growth of tourism. So one reason is social media promotes foreign destinations. The next is international border crossing is easier. There's a high disposable income, and the cost of transport is cheaper. And finally, workers may be given more leave, and this allows them to have more time for leisure, and therefore tourism will increase. So we're going to be looking at the positive impacts of tourism. So this increases cultural exchange because visitors to the touristic area learn about the culture and the customs of the area that is receiving the tourism, and therefore there's more cultural exchange. The next is a multiplier effect. And what this means is that when tourism increases, it also increases income for retail and commercial centers that are located in the area of tourism, because there'll be more tourists that will buy those goods and services, and can therefore have an overall increasing impact on the economy. Another positive impact is better transport infrastructure. And this is because if an area wants to invest in tourism, they need to also invest in the transport infrastructure so that tourists can easily navigate themselves around the area of tourism. Next is increases tax revenue, and this is because when there's a larger volume of tourists coming into a country, governments may take advantage of this and tax these tourists so that they can gain revenue. And finally, it creates jobs for local people. And this is because when tourism increases, there will be a higher demand for more tour guides, hotel staff, etc. And therefore it creates job opportunities for local people in the region. However, although there's positives, there's also negative impacts of tourism. So one negative impact is that tourist behavior may be offensive. Next is there might be high economic leakages out of the country, and there also may be a loss of habitat because space may be needed to create resorts and hotels and attractions. There's also a decrease in biodiversity because there may be more activity to do with animal cruelty such as poaching. And finally, there may be congestion at attraction sites. Okay, so now we're going to be looking at the management of tourism and how it can be managed so that it's run more sustainably. One management strategy is to control the inflow of tourists. Next is to fence off fragile ecosystems. So this means creating national parks and limiting the amount of tourists that can enter these national parks, and also prevents a negative impact on the biodiversity of these ecosystems. Next is to prevent development of buildings in natural areas, and tourists should be educated on conserving the environment. And finally, prevent vehicles from sensitive areas. Okay, so finally we're going to be looking at the case studies that you need to know. So one of the case studies is a touristic country or region. So examples of this is Cyprus, Kenya, and UAE. So you need to know 3 physical/human tourist attractions and how it attracts tourists. You need to know 3 effects of tourism and 3 solutions to tourism in this region. And another case study you need to know that I forgot to add here is an example of an region where there's high industry. So an example could be Bangalore, the high-tech industry in Bangalore, or industrial estates in Karachi in Pakistan. So for this, what you would need to know are the impacts of industry on the local area. Anyways, that's all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you in the next one. Bye.